Hey there, guys. So, today we're going to start our new chapter, which is about coordinate geometry. And the first thing I'd like to discuss about is simply midpoints. But let's start this with an example. So, let's say that a couple of you are doing the DOV, and one of you, let's call it just hiker A, is at point 2 and negative 4, and another hiker, let's just call it hiker B, is at point 12 and 8. So first we have to decide where is going to be our origin. So I'll just call this point here my origin. And that's the 0, 0 of everything. Now let's place both of those hikers in our Cartesian plane. So hiker A is 2 to the right and 4 down. So this would be the position of hiker A. Now what about hiker B? It would be 12 to the right and 8 units up. So that's where it would be. So let's say that those two hikers, they are communicating via radio and they want to find each other, they want to meet each other at the distance which is halfway between both of them. So in this case, we're looking for the midpoint. And before we go into any equations, let's try to visualize how we could solve this with what we already know. So if we're trying to find the midpoint of this line, we could see this as a triangle. So let this point be C, and it's basically the same y as A and the same x as B. So we have here a right triangle. And easily enough, we could find the midpoints of those lines. And since those lines are simply just going in one direction, it's fairly easy for us to find where the midpoint would be. So for example here, coordinate x of A is 2. And point C here, coordinate x of C is 12. So it's fairly easy to notice that the halfway through those 2 points, so the halfway through this line AC would be halfway through those 2 values. So if we make the difference, it would be 10, right? To go from 2 to 12, this length is 10. So we would have to basically cut it at 5, splitting 5 to one side and 5 to the other side. However, since point A is 2 to the right of our origin, this coordinate will be 2 plus 5, so that's 7. You could always draw to visualize this. Draw and measure with the ruler. Now we can do the same thing for the y-axis. And coordinate y of B is 8. And coordinate y of A is negative 4, which is the same as C. So halfway through those 2 points would be halfway through this distance. So if we take 8 to negative 4, it would give us 12. So this length BC is 12. So halfway through it would be 6. So the coordinate of this actual height will have to be the height of C plus halfway through, so plus 6, which would give us 2. So the coordinate of this point here, the height is 2, and the coordinate x of this point is 7. So the midpoint here would be 7 and 2. This is an easy way for us to do it. However, there is an even easier method, and there's an equation that we can get from it. So let's take a look at those values, the values for each of the coordinates of our points. So the x-coordinate of A was 2, and the x-coordinate of B was 12. If we take the average of those two values, so we sum xa plus xb, that would be 12 plus 2 over 2, which is 7. And that is the coordinate, the x-coordinate of the midpoint, 7. If we do the same thing for y of A was -4, and y of B is 8. So we can do the same thing. Y of the midpoint would be y of A plus y of B over 2. That's the average of those values. In this case, it's 8 minus 4 over 2. I may have switched the order here, but it doesn't matter. 8 minus 4, that's 4 divided by 2, 2. And that's the y-coordinate of our midpoint. So we can rewrite this in another and simpler way. So if we want to find the coordinates of the midpoint, we can simply do the average of the coordinates of the points. So if this is point A, and I don't know, this is point B, let's say that this point A is simply 0, 0, and point B here would be 5, 10, and 4. What would be the midpoint? In this case, it's fairly simple, because this is 0, so it's just the average of those here. So it would simply be 5 and 2. So 5 and 2, that's the midpoint. And we can simply use this equation with any given points. The only difference is if we had a 3D situation. So if we were working with 3 dimensions, and it doesn't change much. In fact, we just add another coordinate, which is our z, and it's going to be the same average as the ones before. So you're going to have the sum of x's divided by the average of the axis, the average of your y positions, and the average of your z positions. So it's xa plus xb divided by 2. Let me write this in a better way. So there you go. To find the mean, right, the midpoint of two points A and B here. Point A is given by xa, ya, and za, and point B is given by xb, yb, and zb. So to find the coordinates of the midpoints, you can just do the averages of those coordinates. So let's take this example down here. We have 2 points, A and B. A is given by x equals 1, y equals 2, and z equals -3. And point B is given by x equals 5, y equals -2, and z equals 5. So if we want to find the midpoint of those 2 points, we just have to take the averages. So 1 plus 5 is 6 divided by 2, fair enough, 3. I don't need all of this. Next one, 2 and -2, the average is 0. and negative 3 and 5, the average is 1. As simple as that. So not that hard when we're working with three dimensions at all.